You see this lady? All women are a little bit crazy, but this crazy bitch took it to a whole new level. The cops get called out to this house. There's a girl outside and she goes, hey, the people inside that house have my phone and they have my property. Can you please escort those people out of my house?
I don't know what, I've been beating on the door for about 5 minutes. Can you please go in there and escort these people out my house?
Is this your house or is
no,
this
it's a sober living house. But
the cops decide to isolate her from the people in the house, and they decide to ask the folks what's going on.
Yes.
You haven't received any payment from her. She hasn't established residency here, and you guys want her to leave.
Correct.
Okay, can I just get your information so that when we tell her to leave, if we have to issue a trespass, we will?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Come to find out that this isn't your regular house in the neighborhood, although it's a pretty nice looking neighborhood. This is actually a sober living house. And they kept describing it as a 24-hour sober living house. I don't know if that means that it's just a place that you stay for one night and then you have to leave or what. But either way, they told the cops that they want the lady trespassed and that she's not allowed to stay there. Apparently the night before she was staying there, and apparently she stole a bottle of their Narcan, one of those Narcan dispensers, and she took a hit of the Narcan, which they thought was really crazy suspicious.
So she came from a treatment facility.
Okay.
We did an interview with her. We accepted her into the home. She left her treatment facility without her medication, without all of her stuff, and we didn't know that. Last night she was up all night. She took a shot of our Narcan, and we were like, why did you take a shot of our Narcan? Like, what's going on? And she refused to admit to anything. So this morning, she's been up all night, and we get home, and I'm telling her to get out of my car. She was like, get the away from me.
Okay. Because how long has she been here? So she's paying rent to live here?
It's only 24 hours.
She hasn't paid anything. She's only been here 24 hours. She can't.
Now, to make matters worse, there's two cops there. So one is talking with the girls in the house while the other's talking to this crazy woman. Instead of just kind of standing still and acting normal, the crazy woman starts doing this dance again, starts talking to herself, and starts mentioning that the owner of the house has a lizard. And apparently she didn't want to get out of the owner's house because she was afraid that the owner was going to throw a lizard on her. Now, the reason I'm mentioning this is because inevitably in your life, you're going to come across a really close friend or family member that ends up losing their mind because of drugs and or alcohol. We've all had weird situations, trust me. And what's really weird is that some people take their drug addiction or their alcohol addiction to the point where they're literally, it's like they're going through a psychosis, right? They are just literally not the same person. Where normally people would be saying, you know, officer, can you get my cell phone for me and I'll be on my way? The officers basically had to arrest her because the only thing that was important to her was telling them about this lizard that never attacked her, but she was afraid of. And so for some reason, she wouldn't just let the cops or the people give her her property so she could leave.
so what they got to do with what I'm talking about?
The person who owns this house doesn't want you here.
Yeah, I bet.
They want you to leave.
Why? I haven't done anything wrong, son.
They don't want you living here.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So do you want to get to your property and leave, or do you want us to have them gather it up and bring it out for you?
I want to get my shit.
I'm going to have them gather it and bring it
No,
out.
they're not. You're not finna touch my things.
I'm going to have them gather the items.
No.
Because she's not listening to me.
Listen, you're not listening.
Okay, they're going to gather your items and bring it out to your bag for you, and then you're going to leave. You understand?
Yeah.
Friends, you've arrived at the right place. This is Jesse, and he'll be our guide for today. Welcome to Walk Talk Vent.
I think that's what's scary about mental illness. Because think about it. When somebody's on drugs and they act crazy, it's pretty scary. You know, if you were to be honest, it's the scariest a person can be when they're lit out of their mind, right? But when you have people that are dealing with mental illness where it doesn't, you know, they don't have to be drunk or on drugs, they're just naturally mentally ill. I'm one of those guys, I don't want to live by any of them. I really, really don't. As a matter of fact, we had a place like this in the neighborhood where every single month they had new people and there were constantly police cars there. That's the one shitty thing about people that are investors. Sometimes they'll end up owning a sober living or a halfway house. And I don't think I would want to be a neighbor of these people. They locked themselves in the house till the cop came, right? But that means that that lady outside of their house that the cops ended up arresting, she was basically making a scene in the neighborhood. Could you imagine if you lived across the street and your little 3 or 4-year-old kids are playing in the front yard with the dog, and all of a sudden you have to worry about this crazy woman being in your neighborhood? That's just awful. I feel bad for those neighbors. But you want to know something? There's probably those halfway houses in every single neighborhood. You just don't know about them all the time. The other day I got a letter from the city stating that one of our neighbors is on the predator list. Not exactly the coolest thing. And here's the crazy thing. We've gotten those letters before. So for all I know, I could have a half dozen or more of those predators right in the neighborhood. I've never done this before, but I'm sure some of you have. You can actually pull up neighborhoods and they can tell you how many predators and stuff live in your neighborhood. And I think every single neighborhood in the country has a couple. Isn't that scary? Now don't quote me on that. I could be totally wrong. But I wouldn't be surprised if you found out that there were clusters of these dangerous people in every single neighborhood. I bet you I'm right on that. Went out with a friend to eat last night at Red Lobster, which is really weird because I've got a shellfish allergy. So I was like, it looks like I can only have steak. But guys, a meal for 2 of us after tip ended up being basically $100. So if you want to take your family of 4 to Red Lobster, you're probably going to be spending $150 to $200. So, I guess the future is going to be a lot of people just eating at home. That's the nice thing about if you eat at home regularly, you can save your money up so every now and then you can enjoy a meal out. When I was younger, Red Lobster was like top notch. I don't even know if it's considered special anymore. Heck, when I was young, I thought Sizzler was considered special. It wasn't until about 10 years ago someone's like, oh, Sizzler's junk. I was like, oh, Sizzler? Kathy Jones, 8215, says, my brother's a cop. Now I know why he's in such a bad mood all the time. Kathy, I feel so bad for the cops. I really do. Everybody can't stand them, and I don't understand why. Could you imagine these crazy people are knocking on your front door? The only thing your brain can think of is, let's get some assistance here, let's get the police here. And then the police go and they have to treat the lady with kit gloves because, God forbid, some lawyer be watching and sue them. So it's just like, my God, what would you do without the police? That's what's so crazy. Nobody has a problem picking up a phone and dialing 911 when it comes to their safety. But man, other than that, people just like to talk crap about the police. Must be the worst job. And you're right. I'm glad my daughter never wanted to marry a police officer, because I would have had to have told her, police officers are one of those people. They can be very nice. But when you're in an industry like that, when that's your job, you're probably an inch away from snapping all the time. So when you say your brother-in-law is constantly in a bad mood, people in bad moods snap. Did you ever watch, what was that Ray Liotta movie where he was a cop and he starts protecting this guy's wife, and then he ends up falling in love with the wife, and he ends up just being the scariest bad guy ever. If you guys know which movie I'm talking about, let us know down below in the comments. Fart in the Wind says, I feel sorry for the neighbors having to live next to a sober living house. Fart in the Wind, that's one of those things where, could you imagine if you and your significant other purchased a home and you absolutely love it, it's your dream come true, And then slowly but surely, there's 3 homeless people living in your alleyway behind the house. And then you realize that your neighbor has a sober living halfway house and right next door. And once or twice a month, the police have to come. And once or twice a month, an ambulance has to come because somebody overdosed. What a nightmare. And there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And then here's the crazy part. You decide to sell that home to move to your next dream house, right? But now because you're next to the sober living and there's homeless people in your neighborhood, the property value plummets. Nobody wants to buy that place anymore. That is a nightmare, and there should be people willing to say, we're not going to go through that anymore. But I don't see that happening. I think that's just the way it is now. Rod, S12S, says this should not be allowed in a residential neighborhood. Rod, there's so many empty malls out there, and there's so many vacant apartment complexes. I don't understand why we can't just house all the homeless, and why we can't take folks that are dealing with these issues and get them completely out of the neighborhoods. When you're in the neighborhoods, that's when you poison the next generation of teenagers. Get them out of sight. I don't understand it at all. In the books that I used to read, a lot of classics. In the classics, they refer to those people as ne'er-do-wells. We have a country that is dominated with ne'er-do-wells. Now, in the classic literature, they would refer to them under that term so that you got the idea of somebody that just wasn't really doing anything with their lives. But it was always understood that the ne'er-do-well was a person that was like a 1 or 2 out of 100. It wasn't like 50 out of 100. Now I feel like we're living in a world where there's like 20 people out of 100 that are ne'er-do-wells. We're all addicted to drugs. We're all addicted to food. We're all addicted to the women are all in love with the bad guy. What a weird world we live in. Everybody loves the criminal instead of the victim. We live in a real dystopian society right now. I don't know how they ever agreed to that. Could you imagine the very first really nice neighborhood as it slowly gets invaded with a sober living house? I mean, seriously, just absolutely ruins the neighborhood. Oh, Jesse, that's not a good way to look at it. You're helping young women get back on their feet. You're helping young men get off their addiction. No, what you're really doing is you're helping people get back into society so they can go right back into the lifestyle that got them there in the first place. The only difference is now they're your neighbors. How shitty is that? One of the things that I appreciate as I get older, and I'm sure you guys do too, is you really just want people to leave you the hell alone, right? Could you imagine if all of a sudden your house wasn't peaceful anymore because the neighbors, it's like, God. And then you always find out it's for the same thing. Some woman tweaking on drugs, some guy wasted on drugs. It gets really old to the people that are trying to do the right thing in life. Anonymous one, 2843, says, first problem is that you have to be sober to stay in a sober living facility. Yeah, that was the crazy thing. There's a little lining of silver in this dark cloud. These people were originally willing to help this young lady. But so many people that are on drugs have this, you know what, I'm just going to do it one more time attitude. And that one more time never comes. They just never get away from the stuff. The problem with alcohol and drugs is that in order to get off of it, you have to ditch your friends. Isn't that shitty? But it's true. If your friends are all alcoholics, you can't hang out with those people anymore if you want to get away from booze. If your friends are all tweakers and drug addicts, you can't be friends with those people anymore. And half those people are, God, they don't even act right anyway. If you're sober, you're not going to want to hang out with those people. That's what's so crazy about that lifestyle. You would never want to hang out with those people unless you're wrapped up into that addiction. God, the tweakers have to be the scariest people, because that's the one drug where when everybody else is sleeping, They're up at night scheming and fiending and making plans. And almost everybody that's friends or family members with a tweaker will tell you that you can't even keep stuff out. You have to keep it locked up because they steal shit left and right. That's why parents end up kicking their kids out. And you look at it and you say, God, you're such a horrible parent. But what the hell else can they do? They can't keep any jewelry around the house. Their kid will pawn it. They can't keep a car in the garage because their kid will steal it and drive it around town. Crazy. God, drug addicts seem really hopeless to me. Tanya Malone, 1484, says she has been up all night tweaking. She is not on her meds. I think she's self-medicating, Tanya, on the tweak. I saw a show, and I'm sure you guys did too, where originally the methamphetamines was like something the Nazis came up with so that they could get their soldiers to literally be able to stay up for 2 or 3 days in a row, just being a war machine. And now that same drug that powered the Nazis is powering all these tweakers in our country. It's awful. CK203 says, I could never be a cop. I'm not dealing with this crap. Everyone resisting. I'm done. I couldn't do it either. And then imagine you're doing it, risking your life. And everywhere you go, someone's got a cell phone up just hoping that you say something that'll get you sued, or even better, it'll get you thrown in prison so that you can get real street justice, because that's what people get off on in this world. Isn't it crazy? You could literally have the worst human being in the world, and the people in this country will go against the cop and say, give us take the cop to prison and let the horrible guy have his freedom. Absolute backwards. It's so weird. Did the devil take us over? Yeah, I think if you were really adding up the score, you'd have to say God is here and the devil is way up there. It's crazy. But anyway, we know in the end, God finds a way to win. So keep walking, stay young forever with me, come back again tomorrow, and we'll do some more walking, because you know who got eliminated during this talk? That guy we call calories. Every time we walk for a half an hour, we're burning 150 calories together. I'll see you tomorrow.